Okay guys, so the past couple classes we've been working on graphing parabolas in vertex form, okay? So I've noticed that you guys have been, here's an example of one. So I've noticed that you guys have been doing a really good job with finding and plotting the vertex, with drawing the axis of symmetry. But I've noticed that I see a couple students making mistakes when it comes to picking values of x to substitute in to find values of y so we can plot those points and then reflect them over the axis of symmetry. And I've noticed that these issues seem to be with the order of operations. You seem to know what you want to do, you know the correct values of x to pick, but you're not sure exactly the order of operations. So I'm going to do a couple practice problems using functions in vertex form to have you guys practice with so that you can do some of these examples at home. You can get the video so you can see how I do them in case you're not sure. And then you can practice because you're going to have a quiz on this, and then eventually you are also going to have a test. And of course, order of operations is something that's so important. It's going to show up year after year. So we need to make sure that you really understand it, okay? So this one's an easy one. We're going to start off nice and easy, and then we're going to try a couple more that are a little more difficult. So for this one here, let's say you already got your vertex, you already drew your axis of symmetry, so now we're going to pick values of x. Now, let's, for the sake of this problem, just pick any value of x that we want just to practice, because we're just practicing here. So a lot of times the values that you're picking are things like 0, 1, 2, because I always told you that pick the easiest number that you can, the x values that are closest to the axis of symmetry. So let's maybe pick 0 for this one. So we're going to have x equals 0, and we want to know what y is when x is 0. So x equals 0. So now we know that y is going to equal 0, because we're saying x is 0. 0 plus 3 squared minus 2. Okay? So our order of operations, we all remember this. I'll write it right here. PEMDAS. P-E-M-D-A-S. Okay? Now, I probably wrote this differently than you've seen it before, and this is why I do it this way. Sometimes when students see PEMDAS written with the D here and the S down here, they think that multiplication always comes before division. That is not the case. Multiplication and division are on the same level, and you just go from left to right. So if there's division first, you do that first, and then you do the multiplication. So that's why I write it this way. So this is how you're always going to see me write it, because multiplication and division are on the same step, and addition and subtraction are. You just move from left to right, okay? So in this case, let's see what we've got. We've got parentheses first. So I've got a 0 plus a 3 in parentheses. So I'm going to do 0 plus 3, which is 3, squared equals 2, okay? So my next thing is exponents. Do I have any exponents? And I do. I've got 3 squared. So I want to evaluate that. So 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 2. And then, of course, the last thing I've got is subtraction. So just 9 minus 2 is 7. So when x equals 0, y equals 7. Good job. Okay, so let's try one that's a little more difficult. So now I'm going to put a coefficient out front here, okay? So remember, we've got to follow our order of operations, all right? So let's pick a value of x to plug in. Let's pick, what do you want to pick? Let's pick -1, okay? Let's pick -1. So when x equals -1, we want to know what y equals, okay? So x equals -1. Now let's plug it in. So y equals 2 times -1 minus 1 squared plus 3. Now, I'm going to grab a different marker here. Let's grab this red one. A lot of times students have trouble with subtraction, so what I always suggest doing is changing it to a plus negative, okay, because then it's addition, and I think for some students it makes a lot more sense. If you're good with subtraction, keep doing the subtraction, but those of you that are struggling, I would do plus negative. So let's think about this. Our order of operations over here, what comes first? Parentheses. So we want to do what's in the parentheses first. So -1 plus -1 is -2. So y equals 2 times -2 squared plus 3. Now, here is where I see some mistakes. I've seen students want to multiply this in, okay? You can't do that because look at our order of operations. Parentheses comes first. We've taken care of everything in parentheses because now we just have a constant, just a number. Exponents comes next, then multiplication. This is multiplication here. This is 2 times negative 2 squared. So we need to take care of that exponent first, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to end up with 2 times negative 2 squared is 4, okay? Remember, a negative number raised to an even power is always going to be a positive number. So then plus 3. Good. Okay? Now, next comes multiplication. We've done all our parentheses, we've done all our exponents, we've then got some multiplication and some addition. So multiplication comes first. So 2 times 4 is 8, and then plus 3, and now of course this is easy. Plus 3. Good. So when x equals negative 1, y equals 11. Good job. Okay, so here's our third and final example. So let's try something with just a negative out front. Let's try something with just a negative out front, because these are very common, and I want to make sure that you definitely understand this. So, again, let's just pick a value of x to substitute in. So, I don't know, let's just pick 0 again, because that's always a good one. So, when x equals 0, we want to know what y equals. So, x equals 0. So, y is going to equal negative 0, so we're putting 0 in for x, minus 2 squared plus 1. Okay, so here come our order of operations. So parentheses are always first. So do I have anything in parentheses? I do. So I'm going to do 0 minus 2. So negative times 0 minus 2 is negative 2 squared plus 1. Okay, so now, again, this is where I've seen issues. Students tend to multiply this negative in before they square this, okay? And that's going to cause a problem, because this squared is going to be positive, and then we're going to make it negative. Whereas if you multiply the negative in, this would be positive, and then we'd square it, and this would be a positive number. Okay, so that's going to be a mistake that's going to show up. So we need to make sure that we don't make that mistake. We need to know, okay, this is multiplication here. This is like saying, I could say instead of negative, I could say I'm multiplying this by negative 1. Okay, so that's another way to think of it, all right? So I'll put the negative back out front since that's what we're used to seeing. So negative out front. Okay, so exponents go next. So negative 2 squared is going to equal 4. So negative 4 plus 1, okay? Now, again, remember I said you got to think of this negative like multiplication. This is negative 1 times 4, okay? So what's negative 1 times 4? That's going to be negative 4 plus 1, which is going to, negative 4 plus 1 is just negative 3. Good. So when x equals 0, y equals negative 3. There you go.